What up? So, you may or may not have heard, I have been let go from my place of employment as of this week. So, this means a couple of things for the channel. First of all, that I'll have more time to produce content for y'all. So that's going to be fun. Number two, it does mean that we now have the opportunity to make a earnest and legitimate push to make this my full-time gig. So, with that in mind, and as a sign of good faith, what you guys are going to be getting from me over the next couple of weeks, with the permission of the Patreon subscribers, I did a poll. It seems like everybody's okay with what we're going to do, which is releasing all of the Patreon exclusive content that we have on the Patreon in an effort to revitalize the channel and inspire faith and hopefully lead to transitioning to doing this full time. Also, if you don't want to subscribe to the Patreon, if you don't want to support me that way, totally fine. Subbing up to the channel always helps. Dropping a comment, sharing the videos, all that stuff really helps. There are also some links in the description to some cool odds and ends that also go to support me. So if any of that stuff tickles your fancy, use the link in the description, and that is also a wonderful way to support me. All right. Now, here's a video. Okay, love you, bye. Oh, shit. What are we doing? Hi. How are you? So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess in my quest to find new and interesting things to do for the channel, I found this thing. I have no idea what it is, but apparently it's a documentary about Misa by Ohrenje? Ohrenje? This guy? This dude? This person? So, yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but that's why we're here. This is going to be Patreon exclusive, I think. So, if you're on the Patreon, you are watching this, here you go. This is your exclusive content. I'm trying to figure out this whole thing where, like, I don't necessarily like to put the reactions to things behind a paywall for a number of reasons, but I don't exactly know what we're going to do with this. So, if this ends up on YouTube and I'm talking about Patreon in the beginning, well, just know that there's a link to the Patreon, and you can go support me for releasing content that I initially thought was going to be Patreon exclusive. And then if I get enough support over there, I won't have to make anything Patreon exclusive, but I probably will. Anyway, Fanmade documentary about Misa. So cool. Let's dig in. Let's find out what this is about. I like it already. I don't like that. Okay, there we go. Is the audio good? It was not. It is now, so I'm glad I checked before we got started. Now we can get started. Here we go.
じゃあ次はベースミサにしましょう。
ミサちゃん。
ミサちゃんは1回目で言ってびっくりされるのはステージドリンクがウイスキーストレート。
本当にあの人酔っ払うんで
He
す。
actually gets
ね
drunk.
もう本当に
Okay, so hold on. Does anybody know? Is this like? Is this actually them? Is this actually Miku and Saiki talking about the members of the band? Because that'd be hilarious.
2時間とかは
It does kind of sound like them.
長いとやったりします
すると
が、
結構後半は
What did you say?
2時間とか
We do solo concerts. Okay, as long as 2 hours.
長いとやったりします
すると
が
結構後半は
She
も
gets dizzy
う
or
フラ
drunk.
フラというか
Goodness.
も
ベロベロとい
ベロ
うか
ベロですぽね。
うん
出来上がりつつある感じですぽね。
あるかなって感じ
まあでもよりね、なんだろう、グルービーなベース
Her
を
bass
そう
gets groovier.
ベースの
Okay.
演奏が良くなるから
緊張しいだったりちょっとする
あ
ところがあるので、
ピュアだから
ピュアだからとてもバンドメイドで
She has
一
the
番
purest
純
heart.
粋な
Did you know that Misa has the purest heart among bandmade? I did not.
心を
そう
持ってるの
見た目はね
ね
クールビューティー
クールビューティー
なアジアンビューティーな感じなんだけど
海外からのね人気はすごいですぽね。
一番です
う
ね
んミサミサってすごいコールが起きるぐらい。
だって怖い印象を受けるもんね
ね
最
Because
初
they're
は
scared by her
ファン
at first. Because she doesn't talk much in particular. So she maintains the mysterious vibe. I think that makes her alluring.
喋ら
Also, she's a badass with the bass.
ないからね。
そうそうそうそう、怖い人だと思ってましたっていう
I
コメ
thought
ン
she
ト
was
よく見る。
scary.
ね、でも小学生
Can you guys read that? I hope you can read that. And this, okay, it looks okay. It looks okay. You should be able to read it.
みたいなねことですごい
ゲラゲラ
くだらな
笑
いことでミサちゃん一番
That
笑う
extremely
し、
silly thing.
変
She
顔もす
laughs.
ごいする。
もう
She
一
makes
番
funny
そういうの
faces.
大好きだもん
大
ね
好き。
だから怖いとは一番真逆
真
に
逆です。
いる。
一番面白い人かもしれない。
そうだっぽね。バンドメイドの一番面白い人だっぽね、きっと。
Wait.
With an introduction like that,
Okay, because I can't listen to something I haven't listened to yet. So you can't just like play manners, okay? That's not what we're doing. Although that is slated for the docket sometime in the near future.
I think we can figure out who's going to be highlighted in today's video.
Oh, Akane. I've been paying attention.
So today, let's talk about Misa.
Oh. Misa. I'm dumb. I really don't know if I can do this, because I haven't listened to manners yet. But we're gonna try. Go, play. Okay, I can't. It's too much of the song. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. Okay, now I can't
Misa was
hear,
born
but I can
on
still see.
October
Okay.
15th in Okayama, a prefecture close to Osaka, and next to Hyogo, where
Okay, do
Akane
we really
was
have a
born.
baby picture though? That's amazing.
According to her mother, she was an easy child to raise, as she used to play by herself. Even though she was a lively child, she always avoided dangerous situations and tried to act like an adult. She loved music and arts in general.
Wait, what was that
Tried
picture?
to-
Hold on. Is that okay? So she's got something on her belly there, and then is that a real cigarette that she's like? That's funny.
act like an adult. She loved music and arts in general, but hated studying. And just
Same. Hate studying. It's
like Konami and Akane, music has been a part of Misa's life since her early childhood, as she started to learn piano when she was around 4. In elementary school, she joined a brass band and played alto horn.
alto.
Right when she entered
What the fuck's an alto horn? I've never heard of an alto horn. Do you mean an like a French horn? What the fuck is an alto horn? You can't just say that. Okay, so it's also called a tenor horn, or an alt horn in Germany, occasionally referred to as an E flat horn. It's a bass brass instrument in the sax horn family and is usually pitched in E flat.
Pitched in E flat. It joins the utter glut of alto pitched brass instruments that exist.
Alto
You have this, what
Yeah.
we use in the brass band, or you could have this.
Okay,
This
so
is a tenor core, also an alto
Okay,
brass
it looks like a French horn. What do we like? Give me what?
instrument. Or you could have this. This is a mellophone, also
Okay, yeah, mellophone. I'm familiar with mellophones.
an alto brass
Although that looks a little bit chunkier than a mellophone that I'm used to, but
instrument. Or you could have this. This is a solo horn. Guess what? It's also an alto brass instrument.
kind of looks like
Or
those
the last
trombones that I
alto
used to-
brass instrument in my collection is this, the frumpet.
The frumpet.
Well, is this a brass instrument or a piece of scrap? I'm not too sure, but you get the point.
Okay, all right. So yeah, it's close, I would say, to a French horn in tonality, which I think a mellophone is just like a different version of a French horn. So I mean, they're all sort of like in the same area, maybe a little bit higher than a trombone, but not as high as a trumpet. So anyway, you were saying?
junior high school, Misa moved to Tokyo due to family circumstances, and her temper changed a lot. She had a hard time fitting in with life in the big city and getting along with her peers from the same grade. She was also afraid to be judged because of her accent, which was different from the other children, and became more and more introverted. In 7th grade, she started to play guitar, but ended up joining a concert band in 9th grade, where she played the trumpet. Even though she did learn a lot of different instruments, she kept learning piano for a few years. In high school, she played as a guitarist vocalist in a Keon club with a Fender Squier model that she bought. One day, an older friend of Misa asked her if she could join his band as a bassist. Until then, she'd never thought about playing bass. She started to play guitar and always wanted to play drums, but bass? It had never crossed her mind.
How about that?
Misa borrowed a bass and started to play. And even though it was difficult, she loved it and bought a Squier P bass immediately so she could give back the bass she borrowed. And one of the main reasons Misa got introduced to music at such an early age was that her mother listened to music all the time. This is how Misa got to hear bands like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and The Who when she was still only in kindergarten. Her mother was also very supportive and helped Misa choose the right school when she hesitated between university and professional college. Misa started a course on sound engineering in a professional college before changing to a bass course, as she didn't want to work behind a stage, but on stage as a professional bassist. Before talking about Fanmade, let's take a look at Misa's past experience in the music industry. Except for small bands during her school years, Misa had been a member of a band named Prototype for 5.5 years between 2008 and 2013.
Band called Prototype?
Prototype was a small band composed of 4 members, and the band made at least 2 mini-albums and performed several live concerts. We don't have that much information, but it seems that they sold their CDs directly and not via music stores. They used to perform in and around Shimokitazawa, which is where Misa lived, and Shibuya. There is a review of one of their live performances which states that they sound like the Smashing Pumpkins and are appealing to everyone who loves Western music. The person who wrote this review also said that they couldn't stop smiling. It sounds like this band must have played some great music. But that's not all. While she was playing for Prototype, Misa joined another band called Hurtist. This band was formed with 6 members who performed live several times before disbanding in October 2012. You can find 3 of their live videos on their YouTube channel. Misa and Akane also met in 2012 as they were going to the same school, the Tokyo Music School. They connected immediately as instrumentalists and worked together on several projects. The same year, they made an appearance as actors in an MV of the singer-actress Becky with the song Yoruka Switch. In 2015, Misa, along with Konami and Akane, were at the 5th anniversary party of the idol band Predia in Zepp Tokyo as a backing band. You do remember the link between Predia and Fanmade, right?
No.
There was a band called Mochi to Cheese made by Akane, Konami, and 3 members from Predia. All right, we are in May 2013. Prototype announced that they will disband in July, and Fanmade posted an audition announcement on May 29th. The next month, on June 5th, Misa announced on her old account linked to Prototype that she's going to an audition. Does this mean that Misa had the perfect timing to join Fanmade? Let's see how she was recruited. In another interview, Misa confirmed that Akane tried to recruit her into Fanmade right when Prototype announced their disbanding. But Akane didn't know about this information, so she was bold enough to invite Misa to join another band. And it paid off. Now, Misa has said that she was in izakaya when Akane called her, and she was pretty drunk, so she had to take at least the night to think about it. Misa listened to the demo and found that the songs were proper rock music and cool. She was actually afraid that this band would be an idol band. As she didn't want to stop playing bass, Misa quickly accepted the invitation to join Fanmade the day after Akane talked to her.
And sobered up a little bit.
So in the end, Miku recruited Konami, who was found on Nico Nico. And then Konami recruited Akane just after the restaurant she was working at closed, and Akane recruited Misa just after her group disbanded. Wow. If that is not fate, I don't know what is.
It's pretty circuitous. That's
Now
for sure.
that Misa had joined Bandmade,
You know, it's funny too, because that's like very Bandmade-ish, just generally. Like you listen to their music, and that's like it's actually not even that surprising that that's the way that the invite tree went.
new start for our favorite bassist. A new start, yes, but with one problem: the Maid Outfit. Misa was never into cosplay, so she wasn't used to wearing this kind of clothing. She felt really uncomfortable during the first live shows, and with the first
Wait, what was
version
that picture?
of really uncomfortable during the
that
first live shows, and with the first version of her outfit. It was also around this time when Misa thought about quitting Bandmade. It was during the first or second one-man performance, and Misa was already working a lot in addition to her work for Bandmade, so she was in really bad physical and mental condition. She felt that the music she liked was too far from the music she played with the band, and started to think about leaving and forming a band where she could play the kind of music she liked. She talked to the manager, who proposed that she take a good look at the view from the stage at the Masters and Princesses, and decide after that. Thankfully, the reactions and responses from the crowd that day moved Misa deeply enough so she chose to stay with Bandmade. She was sure that this band had great potential and could become way bigger. Time flies by, and we are at that moment where Konami is writing songs for the band. From world domination, but more in Conqueror and Unseen World, Misa actively participated in songwriting on her bass lines and has felt more freedom since then. Konami gives out notes from time to time depending on the song and what she has in mind. While writing music, Misa thinks more about what would serve the quality of the song rather than be sure that it's playable immediately. She had difficulties recording some songs of Unseen World because of that, but she managed to get them recorded in the end by spending more time on the hardest parts. And even if a song is really difficult for her, Misa will always practice enough so that she doesn't have to look at her hands while she's playing live. For example, the first part of No God was written by Konami, and she asked Misa to write the rest of the song. At this time, Misa was learning bass and drum programming, so she wrote those two parts, including her solo. It was a new experience for her, and she had to send new riffs to Konami every week for Unseen World. And although she obviously sent her demos to Konami, Misa used to send them to another member, Psyche. Misa sent her work to Psyche to confirm that her bass line was easy to sing with, and also because Psyche praises her a lot. And Misa loves to be praised by Psyche when she's working on a new song. As she wrote in an interview, "I just send them to her without saying anything in order to get praised by her. That's my source of energy. That makes me enjoy drinking better." What a great group of friends they are. There are two particularities regarding Misa when you see her perform on stage. The first one is that she never wears shoes when she's playing, with some exceptions on very hot days during outside performances, as the stage can get really hot. This is something she has done since the beginning of Bandmade. You can see her wearing shoes in some MV, but most of the time, she likes to play barefoot. She answered a question from a fan in 2014 on Twitter, saying that heels hurt her feet, and are really hard to walk in, so she chose not to wear anything at all. Misa even ended up with the nickname the Barefoot Assassin. Why? Well, first of all, she plays barefoot. And during the Gold Rush interview, when the band was asked about the maid outfits, and particularly Misa's, which didn't look like a maid outfit, Miku answered that it's an assassin-made outfit. The second thing you'll notice about Misa is that she always has a bottle of whiskey on her amp while performing live. And she even drinks in the MV of Don't You Tell Me. If you look closely at every performance, you can spot the bottle that she drinks during MCs. During the US tour in 2022, she even had her own opening ceremony where she opened a can of beer in front of her mic
That's
to make
so
a
awesome.
loud sound, and the
I mean,
audience...
y'all told me about that, but it's still like I think my favorite like little tidbit about Misa is that was her opening ceremony. She just cracked a beer. It's so awesome.
really loved that moment. Misa used to open a can of beer or drink whiskey during MCs for a long time, and she even shared a bit of her whiskey with a fan in 2019 during a concert in the New York Mercury Lounge.
Oh my god.
She is thought to be the one
Yo,
who
that
drinks
dude
the most.
must feel like the luckiest person on the planet. Are you kidding me? Goodness.
But if you had a chance to listen to the Radio for Omesu-sama episode aired on August 1st, 2021, you would learn that they all actually drink a lot, except for Konami, who falls asleep before she gets a chance to drink. Despite her love for alcohol, Misa tweeted in May 2022 that she came to realize that it was too much for her and she decided to be more careful in the future. And now it's time to talk about Misa's playstyle. As usual, I'll let proper bassists present their thoughts to you on what they think about Misa.
Oh, really?
Gentlemen, if you please.
So what makes Misa a great bassist? First of all, she went to musical school, so she learned a lot about music theory. You can see that in her playing. She's constantly moving around the root note, adding or removing note at the end of her phrases, changing the tone by going all over the neck and not just staying at the low end. She masters all the playing styles, finger style, slap, pick. She knows when to use them and always use the right one at the right moment. She can switch from one to another in a blink of an eye, like when she does her pick flip to switch from pick to slap.
Like you really get a sense for that too in the No God playthrough that she does.
Her right hand work is so smooth and precise. It's mesmerizing. When it comes to her role in the band, she's a lead bassist. She can flawlessly jump from just playing the root note to taking the lead.
You know, I've had that thought too, that she's like not necessarily, not like exactly she's a lead bassist, but like she carries the melody a lot more than a lot of other bassists in other bands. You know, and so it's like her instrument is a lead instrument more so than a lot of other bands use their bass for.
Or providing an harmony to the vocals, and all of this in the same bar. There is no boundaries in her playing. That's what makes her so interesting and very inspiring to me. She's my favorite bassist, and I hope to hear her and Fanmade for a lot more years.
When I think back about all of the bands that I've loved for many years, you know, so many great bass players. But when I think of the bassists who really excited me, or more importantly, the ones whose parts I wanted to learn how to play, I think they all have kind of one thing in common. And that's the use of the bass, not just as a tonal and rhythmic foundation for a song or that kind of glue that holds a band together, but they use the instrument as another source of melody and melodicism and
Totally
musicality.
agree.
And I think there are far fewer of those kinds of bassists out there. So imagine my delight as a bassist discovering Bandmate, where you have Misa, who's just constantly up and down the neck, playing what aren't super complicated parts, but making these really, really musical choices about, a note here versus a note here. She's in many ways a counterpart to Konami in that they're always expanding on a riff or adding new textures or new little motifs. They may play something fairly straight the first time, but after that, forget it. And it's not, again, like the parts are super complicated or technically difficult. They're just really, really smart.
Look,
or
sometimes
for
they
me,
are,
the
though.
big thing is that they're really musical.
How would I describe Misa's playing style? That's a tall order. What makes her special to me is her writing and her flawless ability to judge what to play and when to play it, without shying away from taking up space. She doesn't just serve the song, filling out the lower frequencies, locking up with the drums. She's actively creating a large portion of what makes the songs what they are. The groove, drive, momentum, anticipation, tension. It's like all her parts serve a purpose larger than just playing notes that work in the right tempo. She really adds another thick layer to the onion that is Bandmade. One of my favorite habits of hers is when she's having a bit of a bass solo during the guitar solo, as can be heard in Manners and Reincarnation, for example. It's so backwards to the old tropes about backing down during a solo, but it's always so tastefully made and never distracting, rather the opposite. She also has this ability to tap into what the other instruments are doing and create her own parts from that,
Yes.
seamlessly
absolutely.
switching between what instruments to follow. A prime example of that can be heard in the second verse of About Us, especially in the live version. She starts out by establishing the groove with the drums for the first 3 bars, and then a fill during the 4th bar, setting herself up for the next 4 bars, where she gradually starts playing off the vocals. The first 2 bars by matching the vocal phrases subdivided by 16th notes, and for the second 2 bars, now the transition is complete, and now she just plays a lower harmony to the vocals. After that, she immediately switches to locking up rhythmically to Konami's octave climb for 1 bar. And then, for the last bar, she rounds everything off with a little fill of 16th notes, almost like a drum fill. All that during 10 bars. Her playing and writing is a big reason why I keep coming back to their music over and over again.
Thank you very much for taking the time to share your experience and knowledge and your feelings regarding Misa's playstyle. I wonder what you, the viewer, what do you think of Misa as a bassist?
What do I
I'm
think of
very
Misa as a
interested to know
bassist?
what's on
Well,
your
I'll
mind.
tell you, Mr. Ohrenje. So I used to watch, I say I used to watch, I still do watch One Piece because I'm like invested in it. But I started watching when I was probably, 15, 14. So this was like 2005. So the series was still, it wasn't like new at that point. But compared to where it is now, it was still like, pretty sparkly. I don't know what I meant by sparkly. But in those days, really all you had, if you wanted to watch One Piece, was like the 4Kids dub, which is infamous because of how bad it is, and kind of like turned a whole bunch of people off, myself included, the first time they saw it, to just like One Piece in general. Or you had a host of, really most of them were very well done fan subs, where people would they would like rip the original video and then make fan subs and then release that either on torrent sites or on their own website as torrents, and then you would go and download them and be able to watch. So I think it was, again, like early on in the series, the Arlong arc. And so one of the fan subs that I used to watch was the Kaizoku fan subs, and from what I remember, they were like top tier. Like it still like ruined my experience for like the Crunchyroll fan subs because they're just nowhere near as in depth. And so you would get like, they would do like these little notes throughout the episode about like the little like the nuancetical things that would from the language that, you know, either didn't translate so well, or that were like really important to note and like really added context to what was happening in the story and in the anime. And so one of the things that really stuck out about me is like, or about that was like the idea of nakama. And so nakama is really like lazily translated as shipmates or crew members. But I remember in one of the episodes right in the beginning, the Kaizoku fan sub crew, I don't know if it was like one person or a bunch of people, had like this whole blurb about what nakama really means, and specifically the way Luffy uses it to describe the rest of his crew. And the idea was that it's much deeper than just these people are my crew members. It's more along the lines of like they're part of a set. They go together. Like you can't separate them from each other. I remember having a sense of they're almost like, you know, those like Russian nesting dolls where like the whole thing is one unit. And so, but I guess like more there's an emotional attachment that doesn't come through when it's just like shipmates or crew members, right? It's like almost like family, but like family that exists in context of the rest of the group. So it's like the group, like the Straw Hat Pirates wouldn't be the Straw Hat Pirates without each individual member of the Straw Hat Pirates. So with that being said, my take on Misa, and really like each individual member of the band, is that they're essential to the functioning of the band. She's essential to the functioning of the band. And I think that this like her you know, her costume, and maybe her wardrobe choices, we'll say her wardrobe choices sort of exemplify that fact. You know, in a lot of other bands, if you don't go along with the vision of the band, that can create contention between the members and ultimately lead to something catastrophic happening. But that doesn't happen with Fanmade, because there's this sense, and I think this comes through a lot in their music, is that they're a single unit, right? They're cohesive in that way, and so there's room for each of them to express themselves as individuals, while at the same time they all have similar, or we'll say like they all have goals that kind of align with each other. They might not be the same exact goals, but all of the goals sort of like aligned and they're aimed in the same direction. And so I think Misa is a fantastic bass player just in her own right. But because she has this, she's able to be who she is in the context of the band, and without like sacrificing anything that makes her her, while at the same time, you know, maybe like not being overzealous and trying to change the vision of the band itself. And so in addition to being a great bassist, you can really feel that she's rooted, you know, in the phenomenon that is Fanmade. And so yes, her playing and her songwriting ability and her I guess ability to, or her willingness to take risks with the parts that she writes. Like I didn't know that she wrote the parts and didn't necessarily know how to play them at first. And so it's like she's setting herself up to get better at her craft with the things that she's writing. And then she works on it until she can play without having to look at her hands. Like that's amazing. But I think maybe her most important role in this is that every other member of the band trusts her completely. And so that allows them to play at their best as well. And so I think it goes beyond, and this is the thing I think that is striking about Fanmade in general, is that each of the members of the band really aren't just musicians or aren't just people who play an instrument. Like, they're artists, right? There's an artistic integrity. There's an artistic core to each of them. And they all happen to like coalesce and resonate really well with each other. And I think that's one of the reasons why their music has such an impact.
Let's move to the end of our journey. Misa learned to play a lot of instruments, and even though she knew which ones she wanted to learn, she ended up playing the one instrument she never even thought about. From the moment she picked up a bass, Misa never stopped playing it. She loves bass so much that she even switched courses to become a professional bassist and live from her passion. In the end, Misa ended up with Fanmade thanks to the boldest move and the perfect timing. And Fanmade is a band where everyone shines. Everyone has a moment in every song.
That's true.
We're used to seeing guitarists and drummers being highlighted, but bassists? That's not very common. How many bands that you listen to allow their bassists to really shine?
That's not a question to ask me.
I'm talking
'cause
about
it's most
bands
of
with
them.
2 guitars or a guitar and a piano. I'm sure you can find some examples, but since its creation, Fanmade has always found a way to allow Misa to find her spotlight. From thrill to influencer.
Nope. I'm trying not to listen to it.
Dice. Or even manners.
No. That one I'm pretty sure we didn't.
During live performances, introducing a song.
Okay.
Or to go crazy on a duel with Konami.
No. Stop it. I'm not listening.
Even though Misa's personality is mostly introverted, when she is on stage playing bass, she seems finally free and is having the time of her life. She even learned programming and participated actively in the songwriting process. Since she joined Fanmade, Misa followed her passion to become a professional bassist and surrounded herself with the best group of friends who have become very close to what we can call a family.
Nakama. Okay, there's more music. Casper Michael. Great job. Really enjoyable and informative piece of work there, Mr. Casper Michaels and Ohrenje. I hope I'm saying that right. Ohrenje. You know, that one, that word. So yeah, that was actually a lot of fun for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are several others to dig into. So keep an eye out for that on the Patreon. So, but that's gonna do it for this one. I'm gonna go listen to right now to Manners and Black Hole. So if you're on the Patreon, then keep an eye out because that one definitely gonna hit for early access on the Patreon before it hits YouTube. So I'm gonna get out of here. Not really go anywhere. Just start a new video. Okay, I love you. Bye.